#1 Iron Age booty daddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we're talking spoilers today for Isom 2. Now, never fear, if you guys missed my spoiler-free review, it is on the channel. I will post it on the video. I might put it down in the description, and I'll put the thumbnail for it this way. Yeah, right there. The thumbnail will be right there over the Gargoyles banner. And you guys find that thumbnail and go and check out my Isom 2 spoiler-free review. But for those of you who have the book, for those of you who want to discuss the book, just like I do, I'm very excited for this because I really don't like doing spoiler-free reviews. The reason that I don't is because I'm the type of person that I actually seek out the spoiler reviews to find out if I like something. My personal belief is that if the story is good, it's engaging, even if I know the plot details, if it still is good after I see it or read it or whatever, then it's a good story. If it doesn't stand up, then it must not be good. That's my own personal thing, but I also feel that spoiler-free reviews kind of hold me back from being able to talk about all of the things in the book that I liked or disliked or whatever, because I don't want to give too much away. Now, just so you guys know, at the end, I gave my rating for a buy or do not buy. I said this is a buy. This is more of a buy than the first book. I feel like Eric July learned a lot about writing and how to make the characters seem more like, you know, good characters and things like that. I really feel that Eric July, hopefully he'll hit his stride moving forward, but I think this was a vast improvement over the first one, even though the first one wasn't bad. But definitely go buy this book, check it out, it's really fun. Here we go, let's get into the spoilers. So starting off, I read this last night and I got about 3/4 of the way through it before I decided to do the video, but I think I've got a good handle on it for what I want to talk about. Starting off, we pick right up with Avery Silman's sister, Altuna. She's basically talking with somebody about this big deal that's going down, which definitely hits me as foreshadowing. All right, the company that she works for, Projexis, is absolutely working on something. There's this big deal. They're very mysterious about it, and Altuna talks with this guy about this big deal, walks into her office after they part ways, and then we see Darren Fontano there. Now, I will say this, I actually felt Darren Fontano in this book came across as more of a shot caller and a mob boss than he did in the first one. In the first book, he very much came across to me as kind of a whiny little baby talking about the mommy and daddy issues and how he was kind of jealous of Isom because he had everything. Anyway, those are my old story. This here, man, the guy comes in, he's an absolute monster, gets up. He's sitting there, you're starting to see that he'll just snap on a dime. If you aren't talking to him exactly the way he wants you to, dude, he gets up and he backhands Altuna Silman in the face and puts her to the ground. Okay, now her boss steps in, the guy who owns Projexis, and I forget his name off the top of my head, but it's not important. But so far, I actually wonder about his character introduction. Obviously, Projexis seems like as the story goes on, they're in the business of augmenting human beings. I feel like that's what's going on here. The guy comes to Altuna's rescue. He tells Darren to get the hell out, but he did say, "You're only here because I allowed it," and he then apologizes and said, "Look, I wouldn't have let that go on as long if I knew the guy was going to flip out like this." So that kind of makes me wonder if the dude isn't a good guy or if the guy who owns Projexis, let's see if I can find that page real quick. God, I cannot believe I don't remember his name. I just read this like 30 minutes ago. There it is. Lincoln Eusebio. Now, I wonder about this. This is a really good fan theory because it could go either way. He could be a good guy or he could be like one of those billionaire kingpins that's working behind the scenes that kind of gets that Lex Luthor thing going on. Maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong. Overall, that it was a really interesting character introduction. After we see a lot of this character introduction, we very much, we don't jump back and forth between characters a whole lot, but we do jump back and forth. Then we actually get introduced to Yaira, and I forget her name, but she is in a business suit, and she ends up shaking hands with the owner, saying that she's got some work to do and that she hasn't taken the offer. Not much there. So we already knew from reading the cards, if you guys bought the cards from the first set, that Yaira did work at Projexis. But we don't really get much with Yaira at all, and I think they're keeping a lid on that until we get Yaira number 1. I think that's going to tie in here. We do get the backstory for Isom and why he quit, and my good lord, it's kind of brutal. So, ladies and gentlemen, Isom quit because he went to go rescue a couple of kids at somewhat of a convention or something like that was getting attacked by this monster. And the character's name is actually listed here on the back of the book. So that's Shadran, I believe. So it must be pretty important to the story going on. But he tries to rescue these 2 kids. This young blonde girl ends up getting, basically after Isom does everything he can to rescue her, he punches the guy so hard, he breaks his fist is bleeding, and this thing just bats him away like he's nothing. And then proceeds to grab the girl's head, and it basically goes black. One can only assume that the girl's head was crushed. Now, I speculated when I saw that her being a young blonde girl with the freckles that she may or may not actually be Yaira. I don't think that's the case. I think that Eric is committing to no, this character actually did die. Yes, it just so happens to be another young blonde woman. But so maybe that would be a leap on my part, but that's how it hit me to begin with. You know, could this be a younger version of Yaira? If she didn't die, that could be a mystery there that all of a sudden were revealed later on in the Yaira story that, oh my gosh, she didn't die. She ended up getting in Projexus's hands and they did a whole bunch of stuff and they augmented her. We do get introduced to the dynamic of the Alpha Core, and we start to see that the 2 characters, Braxwell and the 2 men characters, they've kind of been a team for a while, and the lady that's with them, and again, I forget all of their names. There's too many freaking names in here to mention, but if you guys read the story, you start to see the dynamic there, how the shots are kind of called, how they feel that the mission was a failure trying to go after Yaira, but they don't feel that she's necessarily a threat. But basically, you get to see the dynamic, and it feels like there's a little bit of tension with the characters there. Moving on. Again, we get another interaction with Darren Fontano, him talking with Santuan, and basically Santuan's like, no, you don't pay me for intel. I'm not going to give you any intel. And Darren Fontano fires Santuan. That could be an interesting plot thread. We also hear from Darren Fontano that Jasmine needs to get back and be next to him quickly and not be out of his sight, I believe is how he phrased that. Maybe I'm wrong. So the Jasmine story from the first book really wasn't picked up here. It was mentioned, it was alluded to, it was not forgotten about, but it was not touched on. There's a lot more going on in this world than just the Jasmine story. Like this, they expanded the world so freaking much in this that it's why I say, did Eric go too far? I'm going to touch on that here at the end. Moving on, we see that Avery Silman, Isom gets back to his ranch. He encounters some like beast demon things that claw at him. They can speak verbally. They say, we know what you are, so on and so forth. And they basically burn down his center of operations. A new guy shows up, which I actually really loved his character. And it is Goodwin. Maybe it's Goodwin. I think I was reading it wrong the whole time. I was reading like Goodin or whatever, but Goodwin. He basically has himself a security company that will do investigations, put out fires, and for the low price of $49.99 a month to help kind of the outskirts towns who need this help. Really liked his character. Definitely comes across as an investigator. Comes across as a very fun character, very committed character, and overall wants to deliver a good product. Really liked his character. Really liked his character. Actually, I thought he was one of the best, with the exception of, and it says right here, Sydney Bloodruth. This lady was awesome. This lady was incredible. Loved her introduction. And with her introduction, she also gives us the introduction that this world also has a lot more to it. Different dimensions. Basically, wavelengths of reality that if you can kind of tune into them, you can see them. That right there piques my interest a lot and ties back into what possibly Norfrika was talking about in the first book. Now, Norfrika was not mentioned in this book, and obviously they were just kind of that they were kind of like the MCU preview at the end of the movie, which was Norfrika. I thought that was great, waiting for the Norfrika book to come out. They open up the world. We're talking about various different dimensions, not multiverses. They said multiverses is not a thing, but different dimensions are. Then they go on an adventure to find where these things are hiding out. They're hiding out in a cave underground. There's a bunch of them. They get into a massive fight. This woman has insane power. She is able to use the blood from the creatures to just make things happen. They then find Avery Silman's, or Isom's ranch manager, Sam. Thankfully, he was not killed, and they're going to presumably take Sam back to his wife. But in one scene, in one panel, they showed that Sam had some fire-looking etchings on his back, very similar to the demons. So I'm almost wondering if Sam is not long for this world, if he is actually going to become a fire demon himself. And we basically leave off the story with Avery down in the depths there, fighting off all of these demon-looking things. Overall, that is a very quick synopsis of this story. I mean, and I did it as quickly as I could. Now, let's get into what the heck this book means. Okay, Eric is swinging for the fences here. There is a lot. He is continuing some really good plot lines. He is continuing some and creating more of the world around it. But the large question is after seeing what Avery is capable of in this book, I don't believe Darren Fontano is necessarily going to be his adversary. I think with what we saw in this book, Darren Fontano may be Altona's adversary, and she might be the one to get the last laugh on Darren Fontano. I could be wrong. That's just how I feel. I really don't think that... I think that he would want to be there, and I think Avery wants to go and beat the guy up, but he is involved in some bigger level stuff right now. We also have Yaira working for Projexis, the Alpha Core studying up on Yaira. We also have the question of whether or not the Projexis president and CEO is a good guy or a bad guy, because man, I got mixed vibes from that. I'm like, this dude could totally be a bad guy. I could absolutely see it happening. One of those smooth talking bad guys that you'd never even know. Some dude that's working behind the scenes, manipulating things and moving pieces. We did not see in this book Lillian Renashi and her counterpart, Michael, I think was his Michael something? I cannot remember. I've got the card back here. I'll have to pull it out. But we didn't get to see the continuation of their story in this book at all, which I thought was very interesting. Overall, they added a ton to this world, and there was a lot of speculation and ways that they could go with this story. I think that this book here is the reason that he decided to do Alpha Core and Yaira, because reading Isom number 1, I was like, man, that's a waste. I'm not interested in Alpha Core, not interested in Yaira. I really just don't care. After reading Isom 2, I understand why they would be doing the Alpha Core and Yaira number 1 to tie into this story to then further expand the universe. Overall, man, there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to digest in this. And I don't know. I almost feel like this should have been the first one. This is that much better than Isom number 1. Isom number 1, I get it. We kind of landed in the world as things were moving on and shaking, but this is just a step above. I enjoyed... When I read Isom 1 the second time, I felt the same way about it. When I read this, as I'm reading this one the second time, because I got about 3/4 of the way through it. When I read this one the second time, I realized that I actually enjoyed it more. So I think that so they're on the right track for sure. But guys, let me know what fan theories you guys have from this. What were your favorite moments of the book? I want to know what you guys think. My favorite moment of the book was the origin story and just watching the devastation that Isom went through after that young girl died. That was a tragic story. I get why he retired. I understand now something that hard It definitely real, definitely real. You know, you get some PTSD after seeing something like that. It wasn't like it was. I mean, it was brutal, dude. Had they gone, I mean, they did a lot of that old school, you know, comic stuff. Is you got to read between the panels on that one. That was my favorite moment. What was your favorite moment? What are your fan theories? What did I get wrong in this book? Like, talk to me, guys. This is big. And do you guys think that Eric can actually deliver on the monumental world that he just opened up? Because we've got tech businesses going after each other. We now have an underworld going after each other. We now have alternate dimensions coming in. And if Norfrica ever comes back, we have something tantamount to gods. So do we think that Eric July is his Bible written well enough, and are the writers going to deliver well enough that he's hiring to handle this story as it goes forward? How do you think Isom number 3 is going to play out? I'm worried that he may not have. I'm worried he might not be able to tie certain threads together. The Jasmine thread, first of all, open up the Projexis thread more, because I feel like that one, or really, and I really feel like you're going to have to read Alpha Core and Yaira to understand Isom 3, and I just don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I really want to commit to other books in the series, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and never forget, I dedicate a live stream to everybody who comments. It's called Sunday Coffee. I go through, I read all of the comments on my videos every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, so that way if you guys leave something in the comments and you want to have a further conversation with me, show up on Sundays with your coffee cup, and we're going to be talking more about this. So guys, thank you all so much for being here. Eric stepped it up on this one. I had my trepidations, but he stepped it up on this one. He did. I'm impressed. And I had my reservations, but I got to give it to the man. I got to give it to him. So ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Oh, and like the channel, subscribe, or like the video, subscribe. I should have said that earlier. And ring the notification bell for me. And do that for somebody else that you love on the platform too. I'm sure they would feel absolutely honored if you would do that. And until next time, cheers, everybody. Thank you all so much for checking out this video. And I would ask, beg, borrow, and steal just to get you guys to click the links down in the description below to join my Gilded server and my adrinkwithcrazy.locals.com. Oh, and by the way, just in case you guys didn't know, I'm also over on Rumble as well, so click that link while you're down there. See you next time.